At some point, we all had fun drawing stick figures. Now we mostly just brush it aside as a childhood pastime or just something frivolous we do. But in this video, we'll see how we can use these little guys to actually practice and even build our pupil drawing skills. We'll create some really cool, fun, and dynamic poses. And it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or pro, just follow along and have some fun. I still can't believe it's been almost 10 years since I published my first book, Penning Drawing a Simple Guide, and the supplementary Penning Drawing Workbook. And by the looks of it, I think my third book will be done this summer. So fingers crossed. Now, we usually don't see stick figures as a drawing tool for learning anything meaningful or anything like that, right? But it can be such a really easy and fun and simple yet effective way to practice some of the basic concepts of drawing, like balance, proportions, even just learning how to simplify the human figure, and even composing figures in 3D space. Now, I know it sounds like an oxymoron saying stick figures in 3D space in the same sentence, but this is generally because we're used to seeing stick figures being drawn in 2D, right? They're usually just in a flat plane. Now, you'll see with just a few tweaks, we can actually make them look and feel more 3D without using cylinders or blocks or anything like that. And we'll do this by using a stick figure I saw in a book by E.G. Lutz about 20 years ago, and it's been my favorite way of drawing stick figures ever since. Because just by using this simple rectangle, we're now able to create a sense of depth by doing overlaps and some few little other techniques that I'll share with you guys. It's really, really fun. And you see how we can transform this simple little figure to create a three-dimensional space and depth and even some really fun compositions. Now, as far as the proportions, it's really simple. The torso is about 2.5 heads, the legs are about 2.5, and the arms are about 2.5. That's pretty much it. Everything is really just approximation, so don't go crazy. The key is getting a feel for how they relate to each other. Now, we're going to use three techniques, three simple techniques for creating a sense of depth. And the first one is using size difference. You see with the heads here, the assumption is things that are close to us appear larger than things that are further away. That's it. Second, we're going to use overlap, right? Whatever is in front, overlap what's behind. And the third technique is just the use of placement. So the lower things are, the closer they appear to us. So we can make a foot appear closer to us by being lower in the picture plane, and that's it. And by combining these three little techniques, you'll see the amazing difference they make in creating and strengthening the illusion of three-dimensional space. Now, here's a depth creating technique I know you didn't expect me to use here, and that's foreshortening. Now, how do you foreshorten a line? Simple. You make it shorter, and that's it. Now, if you want to strengthen the illusion, you make it angled. And if you want to strengthen it even more, you can add something to it like the hand, or you put it within a context where that's the only thing that makes sense to the mind or the brain of the viewer. So it's really a trick that is completed by who's looking at the drawing. But yes, you can foreshorten the line. Now, another really cool element we'll incorporate to creating depth is the ambiguity of two-dimensional shapes. When you look at a circle or a square or a line, you can't tell if it's the front of the circle or the back you're looking at, right? So by incorporating this ambiguity in our drawings, we can now actually enhance illusion. So for example, if you look at the figure on the left, you can't tell if it's walking towards us or away from us. But I'll show you just by changing the way the arms overlap the torso, now your mind will actually make the figure walk towards you or away from you. So let's talk a little about drawing each body part. The head is essentially a simple oval, but we can make it more pear-shaped, egg-shaped, to look more like the natural form, but also it helps us to give it a sense of orientation. So we can make the head look like it's looking left or up or back and so on. And we can also attach the neck in different ways, and this helps a lot to create a sense of orientation as well. We can make it overlap the head, or the head overlap the neck. We can make the head overlap the torso overlap the head. We can make the head necklace, and all these things can help to make the poses more dynamic. The torso is just a simple rectangle, but it's really cool because perhaps more than any other body part, it really helps to create or convey a sense of depth in three-dimensional space really effectively. Because by how the arms or the legs or the head overlaps the torso, we can convey the front of the body or the back or the side or we can create a 3/4 view. It's just so much that we can convey just by doing that. And then we can make the top edge and the lower edge actually act like the shoulder and hip axis of the body. So they can help to make poses really more dynamic and full of life. We can curve the poses or curve the torso to make poses even much more lifelike and create a sense of movement and rhythm. And we can even foreshorten the torso to exaggerate that effect of it moving in and out of space. The arm is really easy. We can just use a straight line or a curved line, make it bent or straight. And the hand is pretty much like the head. We can mold it to be round or like a mitten, or a mitten with a thumb, or like a Pac-Man. Just really simple. You just want to be able to suggest a thumb and the hand. That's it. The legs are thought of in the same way. They can be straight, bent, curved. We can vary the length. And the feet are just thought of as triangles, right? So whether they're facing towards us or to the side or away from us, we just basically vary the shape of the triangle or the length or the size, right? So we can make the legs appear closer to us or further away. Another really cool thing we can do with the arms and legs is we can make them either straight or concave or convex, depending on the pose or the action. And this seems really simple, I know, but it adds so much more expression and movement. Just overall makes the poses so much more dynamic. And it also helps to enhance the illusion of depth when the arms or legs are foreshortened. Now, to get a gist of drawing the poses, I would say the most important thing is try to maintain a sense of balance. What I did, it's good to look at people, look at photos of people, and just see how they naturally use their different body parts to balance themselves. You know, so when you're actually creating these figures from your imagination, you will tend to naturally account for what you think is necessary to balance the figures. If it bends back, then it'll push the arm out. You know, if it bends forward, it'll push an arm back, and so on. All right. So just try to keep things like that in mind, because even the movement of the head can influence how the body balances itself. So I think that pretty much covers all the basics you need. Now it's just putting them all together and having fun. Getting some practice with seeing how they interact in various spaces. And what I'll do is just create some different compositions and have figures interact in different ways and different poses, just for you to see the creative possibilities you have with just a simple stick figure like this. And you could use this as for thumbnails, creating thumbnails, gesture drawings, or even as a way to brainstorm ideas for compositions. And as I create these compositions, just make note of the little things that I do. Sometimes I'll exaggerate the shape of the torso. Sometimes I may exaggerate the shape of the different body parts, the head, the foot. Sometimes I'll leave the head open. I'll leave the foot open. When I'm creating an overlap, sometimes I'll just break that leg where it overlaps another body part. Sometimes I'll create a 3/4 view or a side view by making the arm start at different parts on the torso. And they're just little things that you'll discover as you go along, you know. And don't worry about the getting the proportions exact. As you draw, and the more you do it, you will just develop a natural sense of how the different body parts relate to each other. And what I used to do is I'll just find poses of different images as references and just challenge myself to create them using these simple figures. And what it does, it helps you to develop a heightened sense of space and proportion and balance. And you really get a really simplified and almost primal version of the human body and how it moves in and out of space, which I would say is perhaps one of the most difficult things for drawing students. And it's learning how to be economical, how to simplify, determining what is the most essential information, which is something, to be honest, it comes after years of practice. But this is such a really cool way of honing in on that skill, learning what is important, what is not. You know, how do I capture the essence of a pose? And this is a really simple and easy and fun way to practice doing that. Okay, everyone, I hope you were able to follow along and have as much fun as I did. And I'm sure you can realize the amount of possibilities, the creative potential you have, and how far you could really take this. You know, and it's such a simple way to create depth, to create the illusion of three-dimensional space without having to use cylinders or blocks or anything like that. You can still create that sense of space between the figures. It's really a lot of fun, and this, it really is an effective way to practice just general sense of proportions, and space, and balance, and just positioning figures. And what I usually do is, like, I would find images, just photographs, and use them as exercises to just challenge myself to see how I could position the stick figure in the same way. And this is something you can do whether you're a beginner or pro, no matter what, and it can easily get started. There's no as much foundational skills that are needed, to really get involved and have some fun with this. All right, so thanks so much for watching. Now go and practice, have some more fun, and I'll see you in the next video.